For some reason, my brain was still on. I don't think everybody's going to be shopping like crazy this year, but I think people are shopping like crazy this year. Maybe they're listening to Howard Lutnick.
The president is also working on this potential proposal to send out checks of $2,000, dividend checks. And, you know, there's an analyst I spoke with over the weekend who believes that it's unlikely unless we see a second reconciliation package passed in 2026. What's your expectation, Secretary, in terms of a second reconciliation bill or a standalone $2,000 check program to go out?
Look, the tariffs are an American policy. The president wants the American people to understand how great tariffs are for them. And so one of the ways to prove to the American people how great tariffs are is to have them share in a part of 1 year's income from these tariffs. And that's $2,000 a head, as he said, for people who need the money. You know, he's going to constrain it to people who need the money. And that's exciting. So the president's got that on his desk. I know that's something he wants to achieve, and his legislative team will figure out the best way to do it. But what he's trying to do is make sure people in America understand that tariffs are their policy. It's to make America stronger, and it could also benefit their pocketbook. And that is coming next year from the president.
Howard Lutnick again, trying to sell some snake oil in the backseat of that busted used car that he's trying to have you drive off the lot. He wants to make sure that you understand Donald Trump is proving the greatness of tariffs. Let's see if you can come up with this equation. The greatness of tariffs, that you're going to get $2,000 because you're in need of it during this golden era where everyone is so prosperous that they don't need $2,000, but they still need $2,000. That is because of tariffs, which part of the reasons why you need that $2,000 is because all the money that they say they're raking in from tariffs is coming from your pockets. So let me give you $2,000 back, despite the fact that outside of just also these tariffs, there's other completely destructive policies in this guy's economic agenda that have made things even worse on your life, that everything else is skyrocketed, including healthcare, costs of everything else that has destroyed your life, but you're going to get $2,000 back. And you're supposed to be happy about it because it's proof that tariffs work. It doesn't make any sense, but it's the same argument that they keep on talking about. Main reason that Lutnick is telling these arguments, these lies, is because the Supreme Court doesn't seem to be leaning in their direction. That's what Donald Trump has been scared and shaking in his boots about. He's like, this is supposed to be my court.
Sure, what is the backup plan should the Supreme Court rule against you?
Well, we are going to win the case. It's pretty clear. I sat in the Supreme Court. We're going to win the case. But the fact is the president has all sorts of policies and tools throughout. He's got tariff rules of 232 in my department. He's got 301. He's got 338. Tariffs are going to be a part of this administration's national security and national economic protection of the American people. But we are going to win the case. So you can worry about the backup plan, but you're going to watch the Supreme Court back this president, because this president has proven that he can protect America, and IEPA is protecting America. So we are going to win this case. You heard it from me. I feel confident. I sat through the case. We are going to win.
Does anyone think Howard Lutnick knows what he's talking about? And by the way, By the way, his declarations that he's going to win this case and the Supreme Court's going to go their way, I'm not fully thinking that he's crazy about that. They've done other insane things and allowed him to do whatever the hell he wants. So why wouldn't they hear? But it just doesn't make sense with some of these comments and questions and back and forth that we've seen from their deliberations about this. So it's not like it's cut and dry as he's saying, but that's how salesmen do. But they are a little nervous about it, as you can see from the length of this post from Donald Trump. Again, talking about tariffs. I won't read the whole thing because if you've listened to or read anything that he's mentioned about tariffs, he says it all again here again. But the point is he's repeating it because that's how propagandists work. He says, despite the massive amount of money being made by the United States of America, hundreds of billions of dollars as a result of the tariffs being charged to other countries, the full benefit of the tariffs has not yet been calculated. In that, this is important, by the way, in that many of the buyers of goods and products, in order to avoid paying the tariffs in the short term, stock up by purchasing far more inventory than they can use in order to avoid tariff payments in the short term. That heavy inventory purchase is now, however, wearing thin, and soon tariffs will be paid on everything they apply to without avoidance. and the amounts payable to the U.S. will skyrocket over and above the already historic levels of dollars received. The same upside down road that he's been preaching to folks here. He's talking about how folks stocked up on products and everything to avoid the next steps of these tariffs skyrocketing on those businesses. But he thinks it's going to be a good thing. More money will be siphoned from your pockets, which will be proof of how great tariffs are. The good news is nobody's really buying it, especially since, I don't know if you guys remember this, because I played it twice already. There's 3 different instances. Donald Trump saying that he's lowering or getting rid of some of these tariffs on things like bananas and coffee because they're destroying people's lives and these prices are skyrocketing. Scott Bessent saying that they're lowering the price on coffee because it's skyrocketing. And that same sales job told Howard Lutnick saying, it's great. You know what Donald Trump is doing? Donald Trump is lowering the price because he cares about people.
All costs are high, costs are high. By the way, the only thing is beef. Beef
Coffee.
is a little high because the ranchers are doing great. Coffee, we're going to lower some tariffs. We're going to have some coffee come in.
Ryan, you're going to see some substantial announcements over the next couple of days in terms of things we don't grow here in the United States. Coffee being one of them. Bananas, other fruits, things like that. So that will bring the prices down very quickly.
So what you're going to watch is the president's going to focus on the small things that touch the American's pocketbook, and he's going to bring them all down. He's going to use the power of what he has created to bring these prices down so that by Christmas, the prices in America are lower and lower.
Donald Trump is lowering the price because he cares about people, and he's using his tariff power to take back his tariff power to then lower prices. So they've already stepped on their entire argument.
Now, what happened with Brazil with those tariffs coming off is this. We're now just back to where we were in February when Liberation Day was announced, meaning that, for example, on a lot of goods, including beef and others, we're back to the 25% tariff that is congressionally authorized. So when they say we're taking the tariffs off of Brazil, all we're doing is going back to what was there originally, which was 25%. So the president continues, I believe, to move America forward in such a remarkable way. All of these achievements over the last just 10 months, that's kind of amazing. Some days it feels like 10 years, but we've really only been 10 months.
You ain't lying. It does feel like 10 years because of the destructive nature of this administration. You see how I want everyone to know we're just pulling back tariffs since before Donald Trump slapped in all these ridiculous tariffs on Liberation Day. It's not that big of a deal. It's just back to what it was before. Yeah, we know that. Why is it they're presenting it that way and saying it was just the way it was before? Yeah, that's the whole point. That's how you lower prices from the things that you raised prices on by slapping those tariffs on, dumb. I'm sorry. She's not even being dumb in this situation. She thinks anyone that's listening to her is dumb enough to buy this line that she's talking about. But there's other issues. It's not just the bananas and the coffee, as we've been documented well these past few months. These farmers and these ranchers, all these folks are getting destroyed, specifically soybean farmers. Check out this sales job.
We're selling a lot more soybeans than we were, though, a couple of months ago when we first started talking about that.
That was the big problem. China went from the biggest buyer of soybeans to zero purchases of soybeans. That was the biggest issue that happened. That happened on President Trump's watch.
Well, so we have seen a decline from China buying soybeans for years. It is an important point, though, because China, just a few years ago, was buying about 65% of our soybeans from America. They have pivoted to buying a lot of Brazilian soybeans. And also the president has said, as has Secretary Bessent, that using our soybean farmers for leverage is not okay. So in the last, just a couple of weeks ago, the announcement was that China is back on to buy soybeans, 12 million metric tons this year, 25 million metric tons over the next few years. They've already put in a purchase order. We've already started shipping soybeans their way, almost 1.5 million metric tons. We have every indication they will continue to buy soybeans, sorghum, et cetera. But it goes to the larger effort of President Trump. We can't be so reliant as Americans producing American products on one country, a foreign adversary. So opening up, Japan's going to buy more soybeans. The EU's going to buy more soybeans. There are countries all around the world now that have committed to that, Argentina and others. So next year, I think you'll begin to see a incredible move toward these opening markets and moving more of our American agriculture products out.
Why believe Brooke Rollins when she says next year? Lutnick said next year. Scott Bessent said next year. Donald Trump said next year. Why would anyone believe that soybeans are going to suddenly being bought by all these other countries, EU countries, Japan? And they just go, next year, 6 more months. Why don't you guys have a little bit of patience?
Even though we've made incredible progress, we understand that there's a lot more work to do. And the thing that I'd ask for the American people is a little bit of patience.
I just want to show you guys one more thing. We're talking about all this prosperity and suddenly all this stuff is being bought. The economy's great. But she still has to talk about how they're looking to bail out farmers. Why the hell would you have to bail out farmers? One more time, I just want to keep pushing this weird logic when everything is so great. Everything's so wonderful.
So we do tariffs on one hand, that's to try to accomplish one thing, but that hurts, that has unintended consequences maybe with farmers, so we're using this $15 billion for, was it a good idea? Was it positive in the end? I guess you can use some of the tariff proceeds maybe for the $15 billion for the farmer?
So a couple of quick points on that. First of all, what the president did with Liberation Day, with enacting all these tariffs back in February, we now have dozens of new trade deals. And within Indonesia, Australia, Japan, EU, England, it's just remarkable. And a lot of these deals, people tried for 20, 25 years to get these deals. Again, under the last administration, we didn't have one new trade deal. We went from a agriculture trade surplus under Trump 1 to a deficit, $50 billion deficit in just agriculture. So think about the effects on our farmers and our ranchers. $50 billion is a significant amount when you're growing corn or soybeans or apples or whatever you're growing. So being able to solve for that, which now we're doing, again, it's incredible. But to your point about the aid, the president always said he would take care of the farmers. They have been with him since he came down the escalator just a few blocks from here in 2015 and began this next chapter. So yes, we are looking at the aid right now. We have always said it is to solve for, to mitigate anything under these new trade negotiations.
You don't have to believe it, especially since it doesn't make any sense.